Welcome to the Book Talks, where stories aren't just read, they're understood.
Today, the book under discussion is Amerika by Franz Kafka. So, when you picture arriving in New York Harbor, there is basically one universal image that immediately springs to mind. You're standing on the deck of a ship, you're looking up, and there she is, the Statue of Liberty.
Right, holding that golden torch high.
Exactly. She's acting as this beacon of hope, illumination, and welcome for the tired, the poor, the huddled masses. It's arguably the most iconic symbol of sanctuary we have.
It represents a very specific promise, right? The idea that no matter your origin, you are arriving in a place of warmth where the path forward is quite literally lit for you.
But, okay, I want you to imagine you are on that ship. You're looking up at that massive copper monument, and instead of a torch, she is holding a sword. Yeah.
A massive, sharp sword raised aloft, while these unchained winds whip violently around her form. Suddenly, that welcoming beacon isn't offering sanctuary at all. It feels like a threat.
It's a total vibe shift. It's that simple substitution, it alters the entire psychological landscape of the arrival.
Yeah.
Because a sword represents severance. It represents conquest, division, and an arena where survival is determined by force, not by grace.
And that striking and frankly terrifying image is how we're launching today's deep dive. We've got this fascinating stack of translated excerpts from Franz Kafka's unfinished novel, Amerika.
Which is also sometimes known as The Man Who Disappeared.
Yes. And our mission today is to unpack this darkly comic, bizarre, and just highly mechanized vision of the American dream.
It's a very different kind of dream.
Totally. We're going to be following a teenage protagonist named Karl Rossmann, and we'll help decode how this 17-year-old European immigrant attempts to navigate a labyrinth of absurd bureaucracies, brutal power dynamics, and impossible social traps. And, the context of Karl's arrival is vital for you to keep in mind as we go through this.
Right, because he didn't exactly choose to come here, did he?
Exactly. He has not come to America seeking fortune or chasing that traditional dream of self-invention. He was banished.
By his own parents.
Yeah, his poor parents forced him onto a ship because he was, well, seduced by a 35-year-old maid named Johanna Brummer.
Which is just, yikes.
Right, and she ended up having his child. So he arrives purely as an exile. He is incredibly vulnerable, naive, and completely unequipped for this hyper-capitalist machine he's about to encounter.
He's just a kid. And the chaos of this new world swallows him before he even steps off the boat. Like he's tacked up, ready to disembark, but then he realizes he left his umbrella below deck.
A classic mistake.
Right. So he asks a guy he barely knows to watch his suitcase, which, by the way, holds a precious piece of Verona salami his mother packed as a parting gift.
The details Kafka uses are just brilliant.
They really are.
Yeah.
So he descends into the bowels of the ship, gets hopelessly lost in this maze of corridors, and ends up in the cramped, dingy cabin of a disgruntled German ship, Stoker.
And this Stoker is essentially a volcano of disorganized grievances.
Just totally fed up.
Yeah. He hates his boss, this Romanian engineer named Schubal, and he feels he's being systematically mistreated. And Karl, who has known this man for perhaps 5 minutes, is so desperate for a connection that he impulsively decides to be the Stoker's champion.
Which leads us to this incredible confrontation in the purser's office. Karl naively adopts the role of the Stoker's defense attorney.
Which goes exactly as well as you'd expect.
Right. He marches into this room, standing before the ship's captain and the port officials, trying to prove the Stoker is being oppressed. And let's unpack this. Karl means well, but isn't he kind of making things worse?
Oh, absolutely.
Like he's turning a personal squabble into a formal trial. The best analogy I can think of for you listening is a modern corporate HR dispute.
Yes, that's a perfect way to look at it.
Oh! You have one side, the Stoker, relying entirely on raw, disorganized emotion, and the other side, the boss, Schubal, bringing a polished, weaponized paper trail.
That analogy perfectly captures the structural disparity in the room. Kafka showing us the underlying mechanics of how the society processes justice.
It's all about legibility.
Exactly. The Stoker is paralyzed by his own righteous indignation. He's sweating, shouting, ranting in this mishmash of complaints, and literally dropping his disorganized papers all over the windowsill.
He thinks the truth should be enough.
Right. He operates under the assumption that raw emotional truth is self-evident. But the ship's captain and the officials represent the broader societal machine. They do not care about the objective moral truth. They care only about what the text calls precision and clarity of representation.
And Schubel, the boss, understands that algorithm flawlessly.
He plays the game perfectly.
He arrives in a neat Sunday suit, carrying a meticulously kept account book, and he's even staged a parade of witnesses waiting right outside the door.
A weaponized paper trail, like you said.
Yeah. He doesn't even address the actual accusations at first. He just calmly talks about how his professional honor is being questioned. He knows exactly how to format his reality so that the executives in the room can easily process it.
Because the system requires legible data. The Stoker is unstructured, messy, human data, which the bureaucratic machine just rejects.
And Carl's just panicking, trying to help.
Yeah, Karl tries frantically to coach the Stoker, telling him to list his complaints chronologically, but the Stoker's humanity is fundamentally incompatible with the bureaucracy.
But then, right in the middle of this doomed HR meeting, there's a crazy twist. There's a man standing by the window with a bamboo cane. He notices Karl, asks his name, and wait for it, this random official turns out to be Senator Edward Jacob.
Which is Karl's rich uncle.
Yes, the exact person he was supposed to find in America.
It functions as a classic deus ex machina, but a deeply unsettling one. It reinforces this whole theme of arbitrary power.
Totally arbitrary.
The uncle recognizes Karl solely because of a letter the maid sent him. And instantly, the entire gravity of the room shifts. The captain is bowing. Karl's no longer a nuisance. He's the nephew of a senator.
Talk about a status upgrade. But that sudden elevation comes with a brutal condition. The uncle immediately whisks Karl away to a waiting rowboat.
He just cuts the Stoker loose.
Yeah, Karl is pleading for the Stoker, arguing that justice hasn't been served, and the uncle just shuts him down, saying it's a question of discipline, not justice.
Which is a chilling distinction.
Very. Karl is forced to abandon his first friend to whatever dismal fate awaits him. As he's being rowed away, looking back at the massive ship, he's just crying, weighed down by the guilt.
Because he realizes, even subconsciously, that his so-called rescue is actually just a transfer to a much more demanding machine.
Out of the frying pan, into the fire.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The ship's bureaucracy was clumsy and confined. The machinery he's rowing toward encompasses the entire city of New York. Karl believes he's being elevated to the pinnacle of wealth, but that wealth is simply a more refined form of processing.
And that transition is jarring. We go from a dingy cabin to Karl living on the 6th floor of a massive, imposing iron building owned by his uncle.
The golden handcuffs.
Precisely. And the details of his new living quarters are hyper-specific. He gets this bespoke American desk with 100 adjustable compartments.
Which Kafka describes so vividly.
Yeah, when he turns a handle, the compartments mechanically shift and change size. It actually reminds Karl of a mechanical Christmas nativity scene he used to stare at back in Europe.
That's such a crucial comparison.
He also gets a custom shower that sprays water ranging from ice cold to scalding hot across his entire body simultaneously. It's incredible luxury, but it feels highly engineered.
Well, the contrast between the European nativity scene and the American desk is crucial for you to understand Kafka's argument here.
How so?
The nativity scene is a fixed, spiritual, historical mechanism. You observe it. The American desk is modular, mechanical, and demands constant physical interaction and optimization.
Oh, interesting.
In fact, the uncle warns Karl against using the adjuster on the desk too much, claiming the mechanism is delicate. The uncle's entire worldview is built on Taylorism.
The scientific management of human efficiency.
Exactly. He forbids Karl from standing on his balcony to simply look out at the swarming, noisy traffic. The uncle lectures him that solitary inactivity is catastrophic for a new arrival.
I mean, the micromanagement is suffocating. The uncle dictates his every waking moment. He forces him into 5:30 a.m. horseback riding lessons with this millionaire's son named Mac.
5:30 in the morning.
Right. Then there's an English tutor scheduled for 7 a.m. It is a non-stop optimization program designed to strip away his old identity.
And it extends to the workplace, too.
Oh, the forwarding company.
When Karl visits his uncle's business, the reality of this system is terrifying. He sees a telegraph room where employees are wearing heavy steel headsets.
Their arms literally look weighed down. Yeah, writing at these inhuman dictated speeds. And the text points out that greetings had been abolished to save time. People just crisscross the floor staring at the ground.
Treating each other as obstacles rather than humans.
So let me ask you this. What does this all mean for Karl? Is he being rescued, or is he just being processed like one of the raw materials in his uncle's business?
That is the critical question for the listener to consider.
Yeah.
The uncle does not view Karl as a beloved family member in any traditional sense.
Right, there's no warmth.
None. He views Karl as an investment that must yield a return. His vast generosity comes with rigid, unspoken conditions of complete assimilation.
Which brings up this desperate, quiet act of rebellion from Karl. The uncle buys him a piano, presumably just as another elite skill to acquire.
Another metric of success.
Exactly. But Karl sits at this instrument and plays an old, sad ballad from his homeland, looking out the window at the endless, chaotic traffic. It feels like this fragile attempt to maintain a pulse, you know?
To prove he's still human.
Yeah, to assert he has a soul inside what he literally calls an iron house.
Music, in Kafka's work, often represents the inarticulate yearning of the human spirit. It's the exact opposite of the legible data Schubel used, or the hyper-efficient telegraphs.
It's pure emotion.
Yes. By playing a sad homeland ballad, Karl is attempting to carve out a small sanctuary of emotion within an environment designed to eradicate it.
Naturally, Karl seeks an stay patch. He wants a break from this regimented life, so he accepts an invitation to spend the evening at the country estate of Mr. Pollander, a seemingly friendly banker.
Though the uncle strongly opposes the idea.
He does, but reluctantly permits it. And the drive out of New York sets the scene perfectly. They briefly pass an endless, completely silent demonstration of striking metalworkers.
That visual maps out the economic extremes of this society.
It's haunting. You have Karl sitting in quiet opulence with a wealthy banker, gliding past a massive column of laborers fighting for their basic survival.
It underscores the immense scale of the economy Karl is trying to find a place in. And it also serves as a warning.
A warning about what?
Well, Karl is trying to find a softer, kinder version of America by leaving the city. But what he discovers is that the elite class's predatory nature isn't confined to the factory floor.
Oh, definitely not. The country house itself is dark, drafty, and only half finished, and waiting for them in the drawing room is another jest, Mr. Green.
And Mr. Green is an absolute menace.
He really is. He's gigantic, gluttonous, and intensely aggressive. The dinner scene is excruciating. Mr. Pollander, the guy who actually invited Karl, is entirely passive.
He just stares at his plate.
Yeah. Meanwhile, Green dominates the physical and auditory space of the room. He stuffs his face, he openly mocks Karl's lack of appetite, and he inappropriately flirts with Pollander's daughter, Clara, right in front of everyone.
It's less a social gathering and more a stress test.
Exactly. I'd compare it to a psychological horror movie. It's like a spider web where the adults are predators feeding on Karl's social anxiety.
That's a highly accurate way to frame it. The social contract that Karl expects to protect him has been completely suspended.
Green just does whatever he wants.
Right. Green operates on a philosophy of pure leverage and dominance. And we must recognize that Pollander's passivity is just as dangerous to Karl as Green's aggression.
Because he enables it.
Exactly. By refusing to intervene, Pollander validates the rule of the strong over the weak. Karl is trapped by polite European conventions that his American hosts refuse to acknowledge.
So, desperate to escape, Karl asks to go to his room. But here's where it gets really interesting. Clara insists on escorting him, and once they are alone in his room, the psychological tension violently snaps into physical reality.
She attacks him.
Yes, it's wild. She shoves him, and when Karl attempts to restrain her, she uses what the text describes as jujitsu to utterly overpower him.
It's a bizarre and deeply uncomfortable subversion of expectations.
She pins him aggressively to the sofa, chokes him, and threatens to slap his face until it's swollen.
She even taunts him about it.
Yeah, she tells him that if he had learned jujitsu, he might have been able to defend himself. She completely dominates him physically, socially, and emotionally.
His polite European manners are completely useless against American ruthlessness.
They really are. But hold on, I have to challenge this interpretation of Karl for a moment.
Okay, go for it.
We've been painting him as this tragic victim, but you, listening to this, have to wonder, is Karl bringing some of this on himself?
In what way?
Well, he goes to this country house, completely misreads the room, and clings to these archaic manners when everyone around him is clearly operating by different rules. Isn't he basically just refusing to adapt?
That is a brilliant tension to highlight.
Right. It feels less like the system is maliciously hunting him, and more like he's stubbornly refusing to learn the language of his new environment and then acting surprised when he gets hurt.
You could absolutely argue that he's failing a basic survival test. He wants the benefits of his uncle's wealth without shedding his old one's identity.
Exactly. You can't have it both ways.
But the text forces us to ask, What is the actual psychological cost of that adaptation? To survive Mr. Green or defeat Clara, Carl would have to become them.
He'd have to become a predator.
Precisely. The language he's refusing to learn is the language of predation. By clinging to his politeness, he's desperately trying to hold on to his humanity.
But holding on to that humanity leaves him lying on a sofa, staring at the ceiling, utterly humiliated. He decides he has to escape this house immediately.
He wants to admit total defeat and go home.
Right. So he wanders out into the corridors, and it's pitch black because this massive house isn't even wired for electricity yet.
It's so eerie.
He's navigating freezing drafts with a single candle, discovering these empty chapels. He eventually bumps into an ancient servant with a chest-length white beard.
And that's when he learns a crucial piece of information.
Yes, the servant casually confirms that Clara is actually betrothed to Mac, his writing instructor.
Which shows how interconnected this web of power really is. And this whole wandering through the dark, unfinished architecture, it perfectly mirrors Carl's psychological state.
Lost and confused.
Exactly. He is lost inside a vast, drafty, half-constructed system he cannot comprehend.
And when he finally manages to navigate back to the dining room, the trap he didn't even know he was in snaps shut. He finds Mr. Pollender and begs to take the train back to New York so he doesn't upset his uncle.
And Pollender's reaction is just pathetic.
It is. He's practically crying, holding Carl in his arms, but doing absolutely nothing to facilitate his departure. And that is when Mr. Green steps in.
Producing a letter from Carl's uncle.
Yeah, from this monstrously large wallet. But Green refuses to hand it over. He claims he's bound by a higher command not to deliver it until exactly midnight.
And it's only 11:15.
Why the theatricality? Green doesn't just make him wait. He forces Carl to go back upstairs to say goodbye to his attacker, Clara.
It's deliberate humiliation.
Totally. And when Carl goes up, he finds Mac lounging comfortably in a giant 4-poster bed in Clara's room, and they force Carl to sit and play the piano for them. It feels like an exercise in breaking Carl's spirit.
Because the cruelty is not a byproduct of the system. The cruelty is the point. The system enforces its arbitrary rules through authority figures who derive pleasure from their leverage.
It's all about control.
Exactly. Green forcing Carl to wait by the clock, Mac and Clara forcing him to perform it, systematically strips Carl of his last ounce of agency.
And the tension just builds until midnight finally strikes. Carl runs out into the dark corridor. Green is waiting for him with a candle. Carl rips open the letter.
The climax of the night.
And the text from our excerpts ends incredibly abruptly. It simply reads, "When he regained consciousness, everything was in darkness." Carl reads the letter and literally passes out.
We don't know the exact phrasing of the letter from this excerpt, but the physical reaction tells you everything.
The uncle has cast him out.
Yes, Carl attempted to exercise a tiny fragment of agency by visiting Pollender against his uncle's wishes. And for that minor inefficiency, the machine rejected him.
Just tossed him aside.
Passing out isn't just a feint, it's a hard reboot. It is his body's only logical response to a system designed to overwhelm and cast out the individual.
Wow. Okay, let's pull all of this together for you. We've seen Karl Rossmann navigate a world where the Statue of Liberty wields a sword.
A world where justice is decided by who has the neatest paperwork.
Exactly. And where wealth is just a gilded cage of arbitrary rules and bizarre physical dominance.
And while Kafka's world is highly exaggerated, the feeling behind it is incredibly relevant today.
Oh, absolutely.
Think about the exhaustion of navigating impenetrable corporate bureaucracies, or the anxiety of deciphering unspoken social rules.
Or that exhausting pressure to always be productive.
Right. Kafka diagnosed the exhausting reality of the modern condition.
It's that creeping dread of being a replaceable gear in a machine, which brings us to the ultimate question. We watched Carl try so hard to play by the rules.
To retain his soul while satisfying the machine.
But participating in the system meant being stripped of his humanity until his system literally crashed. So if staying inside the machine means becoming a ruthless predator or a compliant gear.
Is his disappearance a tragic failure?
Or is getting cast out actually the only true form of escape? Something to chew on. Next time you see an image of the Statue of Liberty, ask yourself, is she holding that torch to guide you, or is she hiding a sword to keep you in line?
Thanks for listening to Book Talks. If you enjoyed this discussion, don't forget to like, subscribe, and join us for the next conversation.